What happens when one of the biggest pop stars in history goes toe-to-toe with rock legends, grunge rebels, and even his own childhood heroes? From shocking insults to humiliating encounters that Phil Collins never forgot. These are the feuds that defined his career, and one of these names will absolutely leave your jaw on the floor. Stick around, because the truth behind these clashes is more dramatic than anyone ever expected. For a man who sold out stadiums, topped charts, and even played both sides of Live Aid in one day, Phil Collins sure took more punches than most music icons, and one of the earliest came from none other than Pink Floyd. Collins admitted he was never a big fan. He remembered seeing Floyd in their early days and simply thought, not for me. He gravitated more toward Yes and Jethro Tull, preferring melody over Floyd's cosmic soundscapes. But while Collins kept things fairly lighthearted, Roger Waters of Pink Floyd was anything but gentle. In 1992, Waters unleashed a brutal takedown, calling Collins symptomatic of everything wrong with the music industry and even suggesting his songwriting was an act. To Waters, Collins embodied shallow, polished 80s pop, but for Collins, Floyd's music was just boring. This wasn't just a personality clash, it was a battle of ideologies. Floyd leaned into heavy themes of war and madness. Collins leaned into heartbreak and human emotion. Both sold millions, but Waters saw him as fluff, while Collins dismissed Floyd as too self-serious. The feud faded over time, but that icy tension never truly thawed. But if you thought that was awkward, wait until you hear how Collins' childhood hero, Paul McCartney, left him bitter for decades. Like millions, Phil Collins grew up idolizing the Beatles. As a teen, he even appeared in A Hard Day's Night as just another screaming fan. Fast forward to the 2000s, Collins had become a legend in his own right. So when he finally met McCartney, he expected magic. Instead, he got humiliation. At Queen Elizabeth II's Golden Jubilee in 2002, Collins nervously approached McCartney with a first-edition Beatles book, hoping for a signature. McCartney looked at his then-wife Heather and quipped, "Oh, Heather, our little Phil's a Beatles fan." It was a comment Collins never forgot. To him, it wasn't charming, it was patronizing. Years later he admitted, "I thought, you're not the man I hoped you'd be." Unlike George Harrison, who once played a prank on Collins that ended in laughter, McCartney's moment felt cold, dismissive, and unforgettable. But believe it or not, McCartney wasn't the only British icon to take a swing at Collins. Next up, Oasis, and Noel Gallagher wanted Phil's head in his fridge. When Oasis stormed onto the scene in the 90s, Noel Gallagher declared war on what he called junk food music, and right at the top of his hit list, Phil Collins. Noel once said, "By the end of the decade, I want the severed head of Phil Collins in my fridge." He later called him the Antichrist, mocked his politics, and dragged him into interviews at every chance. Collins mostly stayed quiet, but eventually fired back, calling Oasis just horrible guys. He admitted he liked some of their music, but found their arrogance unbearable. The tension got so bad that when Collins once tried to jam at a Caribbean bar, Noel, Kate Moss, and Johnny Depp were sitting right there. Collins offered to play together, Noel refused. His wife mocked him, and the group walked out mid-performance. And yet, this still wasn't the most humiliating moment of Collins' career. That honor belongs to his disaster with Led Zeppelin at Live Aid. Live Aid was supposed to be the greatest concert of all time, and for many it was. But for Phil Collins, it turned into a nightmare. Collins played at Wembley, then famously hopped on the Concorde to Philadelphia, where he was set to drum for Led Zeppelin's reunion. The problem? No rehearsal, no preparation, and 2 drummers on stage. Collins quickly realized it was doomed. The set, Rock and Roll, Whole Lotta Love, and Stairway to Heaven, was sloppy and painfully out of sync. Collins later admitted, "If I could have walked off during Stairway, I would have." But Led Zeppelin weren't about to take the blame. Jimmy Page accused Collins of clueless bashing, and Robert Plant subtly shaded him in interviews. Collins, furious, hit back, "Watch the video. Jimmy's dribbling, Robert's off-key, and I'm just trying to get out alive." To this day, Collins calls it one of the worst moments of his career, proof that sometimes A dream gig can become a nightmare. And yet, the most venomous attack of all came not from his peers, but from a grunge icon who despised everything Phil Collins stood for. By the early 90s, grunge had exploded. Kurt Cobain wasn't just a rock star, he was the anti-star, tearing down everything polished and safe about the 80s. And to him, Phil Collins was the ultimate symbol of everything fake. In a 1992 interview, Cobain didn't hold back. "I hate Phil Collins. I wouldn't wear a tie-dye shirt unless it was dyed with the urine of Phil Collins and the blood of Jerry Garcia." For Cobain, Collins represented corporate, sanitized dad rock, a safe face of an industry Nirvana was trying to destroy. Collins, to his credit, didn't retaliate. Instead, his 1993 album Both Sides was stripped down and raw, as if to prove he could be authentic too. But by then, the generational divide was set in stone. Cobain saw Collins as the establishment. Collins, in turn, accepted that hating him had simply become fashionable. "I wasn't cool," he admitted. "I get it." Phil Collins may have been mocked, dismissed, and even called the Antichrist of rock, but through it all, he never stopped speaking his truth. He wasn't afraid to call out arrogance, defend his craft, or admit when something just wasn't for him. But here's the question, was Collins unfairly targeted as the safe face of pop, or did he bring some of these feuds on himself? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if one of these rivalries surprised you, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of music's most unforgettable clashes. Because if there's one thing Phil Collins taught us, it's that even the nicest guy in rock has a breaking point.